Now that the so-called rebels have made their way in the Libyan capital of Tripoli, the crimes against humanity by NATO have begun to be laid bare for the world to see. The crimes of Western imperialism have been exposed to the world. As the fighting continues to take place, more knowledge of them will be impossible to cover up. The siege of the city, which is thought by many to be the endgame of Gaddafi, is placing 2 million Libyan civilians at risk for death. Indiscriminate killings by these phony rebels have already caused countless deaths among innocent people. There have been incidents of tribal rebels lynching black Libyans because of their tribal prejudices. U.S. Predator drones have fired without concern into civilians. Bombings by NATO and attacks by rebels have left the population of Libya in shambles. This has been a campaign of terrorism against them to try to force them to give up their support for Gaddafi. Even as they were being attacked by imperialism, 1 million still gathered to show their support for him. No longer can NATO deny the entire invasion was intended to assassinate Gaddafi, not to liberate the supposedly oppressed people of Libya. Even the British media is now bragging about SAS special forces operating the country, as if the $2 million bounty on Gaddafi's head was not proof enough. The Associated Press has reported that a tent city was raised near the Gaddafi compound in support of Gaddafi has been massacred by the so-called rebels. Some were found with their hands bound behind their backs and shot. Reporters covering the bloody find referred to it as a killing field. They also found burned bodies inside an ambulance, one of them still with an IV drip in its arm. Amnesty International has already created a report around one of the NATO detention camps. In an overcrowded cell where 125 people were held with barely enough room to sleep or move, a boy told Amnesty International how he had responded to the calls by al-Gaddafi's government for volunteers to fight the opposition. He said that he was driven to a military camp in Zawiya where he was handed a Kalashnikov rifle that he did not know how to use. He told Amnesty International, when NATO bombed the camp around the 14th of August, those who survived fled. I threw my weapon on the ground and asked for refuge in a home nearby. I told the owners what happened, and I think they called the revolutionaries Thurwar because they came shortly after. They shouted for me to surrender. I put my hands in the air, and they made me kneel on the ground and put my hands behind my head. Then one told me to get up. When I did, he shot me in the knee at close range. I fell to the ground, and they continued beating me with the backs of their rifles all over my body and face. I had to get 3 stitches behind my left ear as a result. In detention, sometimes they still beat us and insult us, calling us killers. Amnesty International has also documented the so-called rebels murdering migrant workers. The NATO-backed forces claimed that they were foreign mercenaries, but interviews with those merely captured reveal this to be a lie. They said they were captured at gunpoint by NATO-backed rebels and then forced to a detention center where even more were killed. Have no illusions. Believe no media lies. This is the true face of the American empire. This is what the war was always intended to do. The murder of Libya was always the goal of NATO. This is nothing more than the destruction of a country and of people's lives for the benefit of a few in the first world. The blood of innocent people would be poured directly into the coffers of the wealthy elite. The deaths and tortures of these people are directly a result of capitalism's insatiable hunger for profits. U.S. President Barack Obama and every other leader who has supported this war belongs in prison for life for war crimes.